EF20 Online is sponsored by the Climate Council of Greater Kansas City and KKFI 90.1 FM, Kansas City Community Radio. Please welcome your host, Sami Aaron.
Thanks so much, Bob. I really want to thank the Climate Council of Greater Kansas City for this amazing week-long event. I'm Sami Aaron. I'm the founder of the Resilient Activist, and this session is on ecological angst and building resilience. I'm going to share my screen. And we'll take it from there. I'd like to begin by acknowledging that this Zoom meeting, hosted in the Kansas City area, is held on the traditional lands of the Osage, the Kaw, and the Sioux people, and I honor our Indigenous elders, both past and present. The Resilient Activist is a nonprofit foundation founded in 2018. The inspiration for it began as my older son, a deep environmental activist, began to feel that the more he understood about the global complexities of environmental devastation and related social injustices, the less he felt that he personally was going to make any difference. And in 2003, he took his own life. The Resilient Activist was developed to provide support for others like him who are experiencing grief and anxiety over the health of the environment. We offer community building and resilience tools for those who are fearful, anxious, fatigued, or overwhelmed about climate disruption and environmental devastation. So let's begin by defining ecological angst. This term describes the emotional impacts of climate disruption. The mental health community has created some new language to describe some of its symptoms and diagnoses. Eco-anxiety, constant thoughts and worry about the health of the planet. Pre-traumatic stress, knowing the science and fearing what most likely will happen. Solastalgia, sorrow over the loss of beloved places in nature. This word arose after Hurricane Katrina, when people returned to their homes and were devastated about the loss of natural areas. And terra fury, immense anger over the many human acts that are causing global warming and destruction. A 2018 Yale survey estimated that 70% of Americans are worried about climate change, and of those, 29% are very worried, and 51% feel helpless. So new words have arisen in our vocabulary around the world. Ecocide. This is human destruction of the natural environment, and there's new court systems to legally hold those responsible for intentional environmental destruction along the lines of genocide. And Anthropocene. This is a distinct geological age. We're living in the age of the humans. So when we talk about stress and we talk about climate change, we all experience various levels of stress. Examples from an environmental perspective, from my own native gardening processes, go along a continuum and can include positive stress. So this can be very motivating. What native plants am I going to buy? Where am I going to get them? How much money can I afford to spend? How do I prepare the soil? So it's a positive stressor. Tolerable stress is to take that a step further. We moved in October. I had all these plants I needed to plant. I needed to get them in the ground before the first frost and before they all died over winter. So that was a little more stressful, but still tolerable. Toxic stress is a long-term stress. It can trigger the fight, flight, and freeze response. As I was working in the new garden, I noticed all the invasive non-native species that the last owners of our house had planted. And my mind started going just constantly about how much would it cost to remove them, and do I have the energy, and do I have the resources and the overwhelm of what I would replace them with. So there was this toxic explosion of words and rumination on that particular topic. Traumatic stress. This is when it really begins to overwhelm your capacity to cope. I'm installing native pollinator habitat because I understand the science and I truly care about the impact I can make. And my neighbor has just hired Mosquito Joe to spray their lawn. I'm devastated about this. And the highest level is acute stress, also known as allostatic load. This can lead to shutdown and hopelessness. Was my son's overwhelm. Nothing in his mind was going to make a difference, and the help he got was not the right help. Most of us operate in the lower half of this continuum most of the time, but the more we understand about the climate crisis, the more likely we may be to move into the upper areas and to require more profound intervention. It's important to know you're not alone. If you're experiencing stress along the upper levels of the stress continuum due to climate change and any of its resulting problems, it's important to know that you're not alone and what you're experiencing is a normal, healthy response. But with that, there has to be this understanding of before we can treat the response, we have to understand how it's impacting your life. We can have emotional reactions, crying, anger, depression, fear. There can be physical sensations, tension, muscle cramps, insomnia, ulcers, and headaches. Our social lives can be impacted with tense relationships, stress at work. Intellectually, we may find that we have an inability to concentrate, jumbled thoughts, or feeling stuck in a rut. And all that together combines into spiritual angst, this questioning of what's the purpose, what's it all about? As we move through the stress continuum, we always make choices about how we'll cope. When we evaluate our internal and external resources and how healthy they are, do we resort to maladaptive coping, such as overeating, excessive drinking, binge TV, and retail therapy? Or do we have adaptive, resilient coping tools? So let's look at what some of these tools are and how you can get started in defining resilient strategies for yourself. The first thing is to identify how you typically react in a stressful situation and make note of what reactions are happening in your life right now. Next, once you've identified the areas you'd like to support, you need to connect with appropriate resources that can help you find the adaptive coping strategies that feel right for you. And finally, it's important to know that because climate change will be an ongoing process, so will your need be to continue to rely on and shift your coping strategies as situations evolve. So let's talk in a little more detail about how to get started to develop a personalized, adaptive, and supportive coping plan. Identify, jot down some notes about your own awareness of the impact of stress in your life in these 5 areas. Have conversations with your family, friends, and coworkers to solicit their heartfelt feedback on what they've observed when you're upset about the environment. Connect with resources. You can visit the Resilient Activists website for upcoming events. We publicize our own as well as other related activities. We have inspiring and educational articles and enviro tips, simple steps to live a more nature-connected life, stress relief through the 5 essentials for the resilient world, which I'll talk about in a moment, and visit our partners to see what tools they offer. Reach out for community and professional support when you need it. You don't have to go through this alone. The third step is, as you make a commitment to a self-care plan, and if it's a new concept for you, it's important to find the way to make these new processes and practices a regular, committed part of your everyday life. Schedule your new programs or practices in your calendar so you develop new habits that will support you into the future. Here's a brief introduction to some of these resilience tools. The 5 essentials for a resilient world are reconnect to nature, respect all life, regreen our planet, revamp our spending, and replenish our resources. We have articles on the website on each of these concepts, and all of our programs relate to them in personalized ways depending on the audience and the topic. You can look at these externally, as in how we live our lives to be more in tune with nature, as well as internally, how we can use these concepts to find stress relief and release tension. So reconnecting to nature gives us the opportunity to understand how our physical bodies and our emotional health are dependent upon the health of a healthy planet. So we can practice those kinds of tools. Respect all life gives us the opportunity to respect not just the lives of pollinators and indigenous peoples, respect the lives of communities who are underserved, but respecting our own lives internally with what we need to be healthy and safe. Regreen our planet. The more that we can put back native areas that we have removed, even a postage stamp native garden in your own yard can make a huge difference. The more opportunity that we have to benefit clean air, clean water, pollinators, birds, but also to benefit ourselves because of the healing benefit of time spent in nature. Revamp our spending helps us think about how we can choose what companies we do business with. Do we purchase products that are fair trade, that are sustainably sourced? And also to visualize internally, how do we spend our time, our energy, and our effort? And can we spend more time with a little more self-care to be sure that we have the resilience tools that we need? Replenish our resources follows along that theme. It includes things like composting, recycling, giving back to the planet, but internally giving back to ourselves. Many of us are givers. We give and give and give. And there comes a moment when you may be depleted. So anything that you can do to know and notice when you need to be replenished, you will be doing yourself and all those around you a huge favor. Mindfulness in nature. This is an important concept. Mindfulness practices in a garden or a favorite place in nature can have a powerful benefit. It's an opportunity to connect through all your senses to the benefits of time spent in nature. And it's very simple. Here's all you have to do. 3 steps to mindfulness in nature. Number 1, literally ground yourself, whether you step into a place in nature or you go there in your memory, in your mind's eye. Find a place that feels alluring, nurturing, and supportive, and literally spend a few moments grounding to the land and the place. Second step, notice how it feels through all your senses, one at a time. Sight, sound, touch, smell, and taste. And third, allow your body to experience, really feel each of your senses, really feel the weather, the temperature, the place, the time. And if you want to go in more detail on that, check out deeprootskc.org. I did a full webinar for them on finding stress relief in the garden last week. So let's look at resilience resources. The Resilient Activist has a plethora of inspiring stories on our website that pertain to all of the 5 essentials. And you can connect with us on Facebook or LinkedIn. It's theresilientactivist.org. We have EnviroTips, simple steps for a big impact. These are how to live a greener life. What a fantastic resilience tool to know you're making a difference. We have started a new community of interior designers, Pebble Interiors, with monthly networking events, vendor sourcing and highlighting local and earth-centered vendors, products, and services. Knowing your business choices are making a difference is an uplifting resilience tool. And then check out some programs from some of our other partners. Breathing Room KC, Beth will be presenting tomorrow at 3 o'clock under the Resilient Activist for this same Earth Festival. DeepRootsKC.org has some amazing free virtual series on how to restore native gardens. We partnered with Midwest Alliance for Mindfulness and are building a community of supportive professionals in Kansas City and Lawrence through their organization, as well as through climate aware therapists. If you know of any therapists who would like more information about the Climate Aware Therapist Pledge, please have them contact me. I have free meditations online through Insight Timer. Many of them are nature-centered, and you can just download the app on your smartphone or your tablet. We have a number of upcoming programs. They're all online. I'm offering every night in the month of April meditations from 7 to 8 p.m. on Zoom. I just had a podcast with Dr. Michelle Robin, Her Small Changes, Big Shift, focusing on ecological angst and healing impact. And you can find that on the events page, the link to that podcast. It was just recorded about 2 weeks ago. So it's very timely. For the Earth Festival, Beth Sarver will be presenting a Good Grief Support Circle tomorrow at 3. And we have next Saturday, the 25th, from 10 to 3, an all-day special climate conversations, reconnecting to nature with naturalists Ken Lassman and Joy Ellsworth from Climate Water. So I hope you can join on some of our events. And I want to end with some good news. Many sociologists and forward thinkers believe that we're shifting away from the Anthropocene, the time of humans, and moving into the Symbiocene, a time of symbiosis and ecological living together, humans and nature. And this shift will be known as Generation S. So we are ready for Q&A. I want to thank you. Please shoot me an email, connect through our contact screen if you have questions or comments, and we'll open to questions here. I'm not seeing any questions at this point. I want to just end with, if there are no questions, with the concept that there is a direct relationship between what we're experiencing with coronavirus and what has been experienced through climate change, that anything we do touches on everything that happens in the world. Decisions that we make can have a global impact. So we have a couple of questions here. Where will the recording be posted for future reference? Very relatable to me. Glad to hear it, Megan. It will be posted through the same Climate Council webpage, so watch for that. It'll take them, they're not going to publish these recordings until after next week's all the events are completed, but then they will be available to you. And since you've registered, my assumption is you'll receive an email when they're available. Victor Dowdy, thank you for your wonderful work. Sammy, you're welcome. Amy Haddock, can you cover over that last part again, the symbiosis? Absolutely. So symbiosis is the concept that one thing connects to and supports something else. And there's this understanding, the deeper that we get into the awareness of how, say the food chain works, or how the weather cycle or the water cycles work, that everything has to be in alignment in order for it all to be able to function and be in balance. So the whole Symbiocene is when we humans begin again to live from the 5 essentials for a resilient world, where we are living in deep connection to the natural world, we'll begin to see the shift. So we've seen it this week, this month, actually, with so many people staying home. Cleaner air, cleaner water quality, and those are actual scientific, there's pictures from the International Space Station that show how air quality has changed from January to February to March globally. So that's the whole Symbiocene. Amy, thank you, great info. Anne, thank you. Megan, thank you. Henna, is most of the info covered today on a website? Absolutely, yes. You can, on the main page, on our homepage, there's information about ecological angst, our resources, there's a resource list, there's a list of some different things you can do for internal support through the 5 essentials. And so you can click on that and have, 5 or 6, 7 ideas of how to reconnect to nature, how to regreen the planet, how to replenish your resources, and that kind of thing. So we do have Speakers Bureau. We are more than happy to do a presentation for any group that you know of. And obviously we can do that online. Hannah, I appreciate your sharing your story and starting a network of like-minded people and resources. You're so welcome. And the Fence Post agricultural publication has a story published about this event, mentioning me, Bob Grove, Hillary Noonan. Thank you, Amy. So If you can get me the link to the fence post or send that to Bob, to that publication, that would be fantastic. I know it's a great online resource for agriculture, for connecting to nature. And Ruth Roselle, thanks for your leadership and caring for activists. So I think I'm done. Time is about up. Anything else? All right. Here's what I wish you. I wish you all a deep connection to nature. I wish you all to stand up, walk outside on this glorious spring day, and go through all your senses and notice how you feel grounded. Thanks so much.